Hello, mathematicians. Today we're going to be learning about real-world representations of integers. So here we have a table that represents the weather of a week in January. So we have the temperature in Celsius and Fahrenheit, and to the left we have a model that shows us the boiling point and the freezing point in both Celsius and Fahrenheit. So the question reads, what is the coldest day of the week? Justify your reasoning. So if we look at all the weekdays, we know that the coldest day of the week is Thursday, because if we look at Thursday, you'll notice that in both Celsius and Fahrenheit, -10 is the smallest integer between 5, 0, -5, 15, and 20. And 14 degrees Fahrenheit is the smallest integer between 41, 32, 23, 59, and 68. So the coldest day of the week is Thursday. Thursday is the coldest day because -10 degrees Celsius and 14 degrees Fahrenheit is the smallest number in comparison to the other days of the week. Our next question reads, what is the warmest day of the week? Justify your reasoning. So again, if we look at our table, we could see that the warmest day of the week is Saturday. And the reason why it's Saturday is because Saturday has the highest integer for both Celsius and Fahrenheit. So we could see that 20 degrees Celsius is greater than 5 degrees, 0 degrees, -5 degrees, -10, and 15. And 68 degrees Fahrenheit is greater than 41, 32, 23, 14, and 59. Our next question reads, if there is precipitation, is it possible for there to be snow for any of the days? If so, justify your reasoning. So if we look at our model here, in order for water to freeze, it needs to be 0 degrees Celsius or below, or 32 degrees Fahrenheit or below. So just by looking at the Celsius, we could see that 5 degrees Celsius is not cold enough to freeze. 0 degrees Celsius is, so Monday, Tuesday so far. -5 is below 0, so it's less than 0, so it's cold enough for it to snow. -10 is also below 0, so it's cold enough to snow. And 15 and 20 degrees Celsius are not below 0, so it is not cold enough to snow. And then for Fahrenheit, it's going to be the same, but it has to be lower than 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So 41 degrees Fahrenheit is not. 32 degrees Fahrenheit for Monday and Tuesday is right on the dot, so it is cold enough to snow. 23 degrees Fahrenheit is lower than, it's less than 32 degrees Fahrenheit, so it is cold enough to snow. 14 degrees Fahrenheit is also less than 32 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's also cold enough to snow. And 59 degrees and 68 degrees Fahrenheit is not cold enough because it is not less than 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So, if there is precipitation, it is possible for there to be snow on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Water freezes if the temperature is less than or equal to 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And all of the days listed above meet this criterion. So, here we have a new table. So instead of the weather in a week of January, we have the weather of the week in August. And we have the same questions. So what is the coldest day of the week? Justify your reasoning. So remember that the lower the temperature, the colder it is, right? So if we look at our degrees Celsius, if we look at all these numbers, 30, 35, 30, 40, 35, 45, and 40, the lowest one is 30 degrees Celsius. And we see 30 degrees come up twice, So there are 2 days that are the exact same temperature and they're the lowest temperature of the week. So Sunday and Tuesday. And then if we look at our degrees in Fahrenheit, we have 86 degrees, 95 degrees, 86, 104, 95, 113, 104. And again, out of all of these, 86 is the lowest, meaning that both Sunday and Tuesday are the coldest day of the week. So even though you might not consider 86 degrees Fahrenheit or 30 degrees Celsius to be cold, it is the coldest days of the week. So again, it is smaller in comparison to the other days of the week. So our next question reads, what is the warmest day of the week? Justify your reasoning. So our warmest day of the week is going to be our highest integer, so our greatest integer. So if we just look at Celsius, we have 30, 35, 30, 40, 35, 45, and 40. So the highest integer, the greatest integer that we have for Celsius is 45 degrees Celsius. So that means out of all these days, Friday is going to be the warmest day. And then we could use Fahrenheit to double check, but it should always be the same for this type of question. So we have 86 degrees, 95, 86, 104, 95, 113, and 104. And out of all these integers in Fahrenheit, 113 is the greatest. So Friday is going to be the warmest day of the week. And yes, the other days of the week are warm, but Friday is going to be the warmest. So our next question reads, is any day hot enough to boil water? Justify your reasoning. So if we look at the boiling point for Celsius and for Fahrenheit, we see that the boiling point is at 100 degrees Celsius and 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So at that point and above. So if we look at our temperature in Celsius, none of these are 100 degrees Celsius or above. And if we look at our temperature in Fahrenheit, none of these are 212 degrees Fahrenheit and above. So none of the days are hot enough for water to boil. Water boils when the temperature is greater than or equal to 100 degrees Celsius or 212 degrees Fahrenheit, which none of these are. So next we have a prompt, and it says, on a sunny Sunday morning, there's much activity going on in the beach. There are people walking their dogs on the shore, scuba diving 120 feet below sea level, and flying kites at 120 feet above sea level. There are also seagulls flying at 50 feet above sea level, watching down on crabs who are 20 feet below sea level. Fish who are 40 feet below sea level, dolphins jumping out of the water as high as 20 feet above sea level, and barely seeing the sharks who are currently swimming 90 feet below sea level. Okay? So let's take one at a time. So we know that there are people walking their dogs on the shore. So if you're on the shore, you're at sea level, so 0 feet. And then there are people scuba diving 120 feet below sea level. If you're below sea level, then that's negative, so that's negative 120 feet. And flying kites at 120 feet above sea level. So because the kites are above sea level, then that's 120. And then it says there are also seagulls flying at 50 feet above sea level. So seagulls are going to be positive 50 because they're above sea level. And then watching down on crabs who are 20 feet below sea level. So the crabs are going to be below sea level, so negative 20 feet. And then fish who are 40 feet below sea level will be negative 40. because that's below sea level. And dolphins jumping out of the water as high as 20 feet above sea level. That'll be positive because they're jumping out of the water above sea level. And then sharks who are currently swimming 90 feet below sea level, that will be negative 90 feet because that's below sea level. So next, we have to order integers from least to greatest. So when we're dealing with positive and negative numbers, the negative number, the greater that it seems, so negative 120 feet, the smaller it's going to be because it's furthest down below sea level. So that'll be negative 120. And then the next one that's closest to that, but not as far down, is sharks, which is negative 90 feet below. And then the next one who is that's not as far down is negative 40, and then negative 20, and then we're at 0, so we're at sea level, and now we're going up. So dolphins are 20 feet above because they're jumping out of the water, and then seagulls are 50 feet above, and then the kites are 120 feet above. So the order from least to greatest is negative 120, negative 90, negative 40, negative 20, 0, 20, 50, and then 120. So which integer is the smallest, and what does the smallest integer represent? So negative 120 is the smallest integer. So this is the smallest integer because it is the lowest on the number line. So if we were to plot it, it's the one that's furthest down. Which integer is the greatest? What does the greatest integer represent? 120 is the greatest integer. This is the greatest integer because it is the highest number on the number line. So again, if we were to plot this, this would be at the very top. And then we have what integer represents sea level? And then what does it mean to be at sea level? So to be at sea level means to be at 0. Okay, so you're not above or below, you're just there, so at 0, in between of being above and being below. How far is the smallest integer from the greatest integer? Justify your reasoning. The smallest and the greatest integer are 240 feet apart. So that's because the largest integer is 120 feet above sea level. So this means that it is 120 feet above 0, and the smallest integer is 120 feet below sea level, so this means that it is 120 feet below sea level. Taking both distances into consideration, there is 240 feet in between negative 120 and 120. So the final thing you had to do was plot it, and on our number line, just be mindful that 0 is at sea level. Everything above 0 is above sea level. Everything below is below sea level. And so we're going to plot them one at a time. So scuba divers are negative 120 feet. So that means 120 feet below, so down here. Sharks are at negative 90 feet. So that means 90 feet below, so down here. Fish are at negative 40 feet. So 40 feet below sea level. Crabs are negative 20 feet, so 20 feet below sea level. People walking their dogs on the shore, are at sea level, so 0 feet. Dolphins are at 20 feet because they're jumping out of the water, and they go as high as 20 feet. Seagulls are at 50 feet, so they're flying above sea level. And the kites are at 120 feet, so they're flying above sea level at 120 feet. And that's it.